All right, good evening, folks. I'm here with Mike, owner of SigDebt, and he just finished a 100-mile ultra race. I don't want to dive too deep into his chili because I'm going to let him talk today. Mike, can you give a brief intro on yourself, where you're coming from career-wise, and how we ended up in a 100-mile race?
Yeah, for sure. So starting at the beginning, I guess, I was a radio operator for 7th Group, support kid out there. Spent 4 years at Group, 14 to 18. Was in Afghanistan, 2016, with 2nd Battalion. Really fell in love with fitness through the military. I got out 2018. I'm a disabled vet now, and then kind of had some surgeries that I was recovering from and couldn't lift as much as I would like to. So running kind of became my outlet. Looked into the whole marathon thing, looked into, running 5Ks, and then in typical me fashion, decided that ultras were the kind of the way to go. So went straight from running like half marathons into running 100 kilometers, which is like 62 miles or so. Did a couple of those, really enjoyed them. Loved being in the pain cave, kind of getting in there and suffering for an extended amount of time. So for a couple of years, I was grinding away at that. And then I was ready to get in with the big dogs and the 100 milers. Big goal for me is to do Moab 240. It's a 240-mile race out in Utah. So hopefully looking to do that over the next couple of years.
Excellent. So we spoke a little bit before your race, and you reached out. We were friends before, so that was easy. But I remember you asking advice, and I remember thinking, like, no amount of advice that I give you is gonna last past 50 miles. After 50 miles, brother, you're in the spirit world, and we talked about fueling, footwear, some of the particulars, but for the most part, I was just exceedingly impressed by the grit that you showed through the race. And I didn't watch the whole thing, obviously, because I didn't have, 30 hours to dedicate to it. But I heard about it through third party, and it sounded like an incredible feat. So, can you talk about how many people started this race, how many people finished this race, and where you were at in the standings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe we had a little over 30 people sign up for the 100 miler. So the way these races kind of work is you'll have like all the way from like a 10K and it'll go all the way up to the 100 miles. So you'll have a couple of different starting times with like people doing relays, things like that. So you're more than just your races happening. So a ton of people showed up, got out there. There was about 30 for the 100 miler, like I said, and the course itself was rough. This is their first time having one at this location. It's actually a mountain bike park out near Austin. And so you have tons of terrain, tons of elevation gain. The path, yeah, path is insane. The path is super narrow and sometimes like literally just the width of a bike tire. So tons of adversity when it comes to the terrain of this condition, which is weird for me living in the Houston area, super flat. So none of my training was really around that. I believe the total climb of the course was around 10,000 feet, a little over 10,000 feet of total elevation gain. Yeah, so it was gnarly. And it was fine. We started at 6 a.m. It was fine for a couple of hours, and then the rain started. So it rained for several hours while we were out there. And that rain turned everything into mud, which turned everything into just sludge. There was parts of the course that were absolutely impossible to get up without the use of poles or like grabbing onto trees. There was people falling left and right, tons of injuries, ankles, knees, you name it. So we ended up finishing with two guys finished. It was me and one other guy. I had been in second place for a majority of the race. And then around 2 a.m. or so, the guy who was just in front of me, I was gaining on him. I was hawking this dude down, and he ended up pulling from the race due to an injury. So that put me ahead. And as soon as I heard news that I was ahead, but at this point I was kind of delirious. I was probably like 55, 60 miles in. I didn't believe anybody, didn't believe any of my crew, didn't believe anybody. They were like, dude, you're in first, you're in first. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. Like I know my pace and I know that I'm moving kind of slow. And they're like, no, dude, like you're ahead by a lot. I was like, I don't want to hear it. Stop talking about it. The sun started coming up and people were like, hey man, like even the people at the aid station were like, hey, you're in first. And I was like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about it. sun came up, finally got to talk to the race organizer for a brief bit, and he was like, just so you know, you're in first by like 4 hours. And I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I've got a couple of options here. I can rest or I can keep going. And at that point, sitting down for any extended period of time was starting to like cause havoc on my knees. So I was like, we're gonna keep going. We hammered down. Ended up finishing in first by about 5 hours.
Epic. Couple of questions.
Yeah.
So, in order, what was the overall pace? Total time for finish? What did your support structure look like to do something like this? And then what kind of footwear did you have on?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was maintaining probably around 9 minutes to 10-minute miles for the first couple of marathons. So I was booking it, and the pace that was the pace that the other guys kind of set, right? Like I came out with the idea that I was going to be somewhere around 10. Everybody else was moving pretty quick. It's kind of funny when you start these things. Some dudes just bolt out of the gate, and you're like, good luck. And some dudes kind of hang back. You want to be somewhere around the middle. You want to be in the front pack, but just kind of chilling. And so that's the pace that the crew kind of set. I was able to have a pacer after mile 50. So I had two buddies, my buddy Eli and my buddy Andrew. Shout out those dudes. They're absolute troopers. They kind of split time with me through the night and into the morning. Those dudes were studs, keeping me the vibes high, keeping me on pace with nutrition. By the time you're at mile 50, like you said, you're on your own basically. That's a lot of uncharted territory for a lot of people. So just so you know, like my wife always says that when I get to that point, you have to talk to me like I'm a 5-year old. Like I can barely tie my shoes. Like I have no idea what's going on. So you have to just tell me like, hey, Mike, you need to eat. Mike, you need to change your socks. Like I need people to keep me regimented. So I had a whole support crew out there. There's a bunch of buddies of mine and obviously my wife, and they took care of me the entire way. So shout out those guys. It's impossible to do a race like this without some sort of support structure. It makes it really hard if you're on your own and you don't have the experience of a crew behind you. And so yeah, they set the pace at that. The total time ended up being just over 30 hours, I believe is like 30 hours and like 50 minutes, something like that. So it was actually, we were getting close to 31 hours, but the pace after I found out I was that high kind of fell off. I think we ended at like an overall pace of like 17-minute miles, but you got to think like the terrain was insane. Like I think some of my miles, we were getting close to like 20, 25-minute miles just because the terrain was so brutal. And then obviously injuries start to kind of play a part when you get, mile 70, 80, 90, your legs are gone. You're on borrowed time basically. And then footwear, I used the Nike Zagama 2s, which are the new ACGs that just came out. I used Mount to Coast H1s, which are goated shoes. Problem with those was that they had no traction. So Mount to Coast, if you're hearing this, I'm sorry. They're great shoes. I love them, but I couldn't use them for a majority of the race. And then I used a New Balance Hero, which is a good soft cushion shoe. So I used that kind of late in the race. And then I just kind of rotated. The real issue was the socks. I had to change socks every 6-ish miles just because it was so rough. Like my wife even had to go get me multiple pairs of socks and bring them back because I was just changing socks so often, trying to avoid having trench foot, basically. Change clothes multiple times. And then, yeah, when we got to nutrition, that's where it got kind of interesting. I was doing a really good job up until, I don't know, somewhere around miles 60, 70. I started not being able to keep much down. So I was drinking carbs, I was drinking water. By the end of it, water was it. The last, I would say, 15-ish miles, it was water alone. And so I was getting super depleted, running out of nutrition. There was no way of keeping anything down. I was just puking anytime I tried to eat something. And then I think the funniest but worst part of it was that the last 25-ish miles, I got the hiccups really bad, which is kind of common in a race like this because your muscles are spasming. So hiccup is your diaphragm it's a muscle spasm. So as well as my legs spasming, my back spasming, my diaphragm was spasming, which caused me to have hiccups, which got extremely painful towards those last miles. So dealing with that was a whole nother animal. Yeah, it was interesting.
So, wait, okay, when you're going through something like that, where your body is literally shutting you out, it's shutting you, it's saying, "Hey, fuck you."
Yes.
How did you push through that? Like, is there a mental tool that you used, or is it ingrained in you? Are there some demons in there? Like, what did it?
All the above for sure. One of the things, and this is like where it kind of gets like personal, right? One of the things that my biggest regrets in life is that I was kind of injured and wasn't able to continue my Army career. My big goal was to go to SFAS and earn a Green Beret. Never got the opportunity to do that. So guys like yourself and a lot of my other friends, like I love that for you guys. I'm so envious. It's hard. I can't explain how much I want to be a part of that brotherhood. So doing things that are hard for me on the outside, it's a civilian life now. It kind of brings me a little bit closer, I feel like, going through these trials and tribulations. It proves to myself that I'm still able to do things that are hard, do things that are really challenging that most people can't do. I think I saw a stat that was like 0.1% of the population does just a actual marathon. So the numbers of people that do like a 100-mile marathon is even tiers above that. So 0.001 maybe in their entire lifetime will go 100 miles on their feet. So doing things that are hard, doing things that are challenging, not quitting, having that dog in you, for lack of a better term, is something that, I take tremendous pride in, and I push myself to kind of do these things for myself.
Dude,
And definitely have some demons in there. People always hit me up with like, how do you do these? Like, you're crazy. And it's like, yeah, I'm built different, like incorrectly, I think, right? Something's not right in there for sure.
I we did have a conversation about demons. That we talked about a friend of ours, and I was like, "Hey, is he coming out? Is he gonna run?" Single friend, good looking, lots of ladies hanging out with him, and I think the conversation was like, "Nah, man, he doesn't have any demons. He doesn't need to run 100 miles."
Right.
But so let me speak to a couple things. Man, I know a lot of Green Berets that won't run 100 miles, and certainly not in 30 hours, and certainly not in the conditions that you did. I think that some of my greatest achievements, both physical and mental academic, have been because I had a chip on my shoulder, a big one. And whatever perpetuates you through the hard times is a positive thing. And if you had, let's say you had become a Green Beret and reached that ultimate goal that you had before, man, you may not have been satisfied enough to complete a 100-mile race or some of the other incredible things you do over at SigDet, and you're well ingrained in the special operations community and the military community as a whole. So that chip on your shoulder, whatever it may be, if it's just being a Green Beret, or it's done nothing but favors for you. So kudos, man. And we're sitting here, and I'm interviewing your ass, not the other way around. So that should definitely speak volumes to not only your overall character, but your grit. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. I think that just in today's society, there's too many men that don't do things that are hard. I think that there's so many dudes out there that love to have themselves painted in this picture of like, oh, I'm a badass, or they think they can shoot, move, and communicate, and are fit and can protect their families, but they don't test themselves. They're not really out there seeking out things that challenge them. They have it in their head that they see like John Wick or something and on TV, and they're like, I could probably do that if I had to. Well, the reality is, like, if you don't put yourself in that situation where you have to get tested and actually have to do things that are hard, you're probably never going to be able to know, and you're probably not going to be able to do it. So doing things that are hard, I think, it sets yourself up for success. And that goes into like the training, right? The training for this was insane. I had a great coach. His name's Matt Clark, super talented runner, military guy as well. Trained a lot of dudes for Best Ranger, and I got connected to him through Atlas Training Solutions, but another bunch of dudes that are very well known in the Ranger community. Love those guys. But going out and running a marathon before work on Monday, kind of one, it shows you can do something hard, and it sets everything up else in your life, right? There's like a domino effect to that, where if you're able to do something hard, the very first thing of the week, very first thing you do before you open up a computer, write an email, look at Instagram, whatever, you get out there and get after it. You kind of bring this peace to yourself, and it changes your life. It really does. You feel like you're on a whole nother level.
Dude, shout out to Alice Training Solutions, and what was your coach's name?
Matt Clark.
Matt Clark. Yeah, I believe wholeheartedly in giving those dudes as much shout out and credit as possible. I don't program for people's 100-mile races, and I don't do so because I probably wouldn't be very good at it. I'm a firm believer in the middle distance, and my long distance training programs go to about 10 to 13 miles. Uh, so shout out to Atlas Training Systems and your coach, man. That's badass.
Yeah, man. We were training for this, and it's funny because it's not like you can go out and like, well, I'm gonna run 100 miles to see where I'm at. Like there is none of that. There's like, I'm gonna run 20 miles, and I think I can come in around here. So you really have no idea what you're getting into until you just do it. I think that's the biggest difference between doing an ultra training and then doing like a middle distance training is there you can't really prep for that. You have no idea what you're gonna feel like at mile 90 uh, until you're at mile 90 on the day of your race.
So, what was the longest you ran, and how far out from race day in your train up?
So the furthest we ran in training was probably was a marathon. But the thing about ultra training is that you want to do consecutive long runs, right? So you'll do a 15 miler followed by a 20 miler followed by another 10 miler. So it's not about necessarily going out on one day and running a super long race. It's about doing consecutive stacked days of long runs so that you can kind of get your legs ready and used to operating basically whenever you're in pain. So that's the biggest difference in my opinion from training for like a half marathon or marathon is not just the training structure is pretty close. It's just that you're stacking these long run days one after another, really kind of beating your body down so that you can see what it feels like to run on tired legs all the time, basically. So my training peaked around 70 miles a week. There's a conversation to have. Some of these pro ultra runner dudes will run 100-mile weeks, 100 miles plus weeks, but there's a point of diminishing return on those, right? So if you're going out and stacking 100-mile weeks one after another, you could do it. It's going to suck, but you only are going to get so much back before you start to actually break your body down. Like going out and running a 100-mile ultra marathon is by no means healthy or good for you. Going and running a 10K or running a half, that's healthy. There's benefits to that. Absolutely diminishing your body and beating it the fuck down over the course of 100 miles is super unhealthy. It's not good for you. It's kind of like bodybuilding, right? Where it's you have this end goal, but it ultimately it's a detriment. So it's an interesting training concept to get there. It's just stacking, stacking, stacking.
Well, and I want to point out, man, like we've hung out. You're not a lively gazelle-looking SOB. Like you're kind of a thick boy. You got some muscle mass, and I don't imagine. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't imagine that's the typical body type on one of these races.
Hell no, dude. Yeah, I'm big for an ultra runner. I'm about 170 pounds. But a lot of these dudes are running around like 120, 130. Honestly, that's where I should be if I was going to do this full time. But being that big and running that far, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. I still, all through this training block, I lifted 3 times a week, stayed on top of that. I never wanted to not be able to rep 225 on bench. I want to maintain that. And all of that is basically my diet and staying active in the gym. You kind of have to fill the bucket, right? You want to fill your endurance bucket, your running bucket. For me, I was not willing to let go of my gym bucket, my, strength. I wanted to keep that as much as I possibly could. 170, it's light for a lot of dudes, but for ultra, I'm huge. Just standing at the starting line, looking around, I'm like, crap, I'm so much bigger than these dudes. Which in most cases, you'd be like, hell yeah, I'm a big dude here. But
Yeah,
standing at the starting line, it's kind of intimidating because you're like, holy crap, I'm not going to move as good as that dude that's 125 pounds and here in about 80 miles. So it is a lot of grit to be able to move that much body mass that far. It was a challenge.
and you did it in first place, and only one of the other dudes that are probably smaller than you, carried a lot less weight, finished. That is
Hey,
epic,
shout out
and
that guy too. I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but I believe he's actually a running coach. So yeah, to get that far, First of all, I thought for a while I was gonna be the only one to finish, so I'm really glad somebody made it through. But yeah, it was nuts. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without my training, my pacers, my wife, everybody that helped me get there. But damn, here we are.
So I have the finish here. You finished 30, 59, 33, and then Christopher, I think Cepeda is how you pronounce it, from San Antonio, finished in 35, 38, 56, and that was all that was all that finished. That speaks volumes for that course and the weather and your train up. I mean, that it's kick ass, man. Can you talk to me about what it was like? Were you on, like, the seafood diet? You saw it, you ate it, or, like, how did you handle this?
So that's a big part of the training program, right? Is practicing your nutrition. What works for you, what doesn't work for you. It's a lot of trial and error. So going through tons of gels, I probably spent a couple $100 just testing gels, testing different nutritions, testing carb drinks, testing solid food I could eat. What ultimately ended up working for me was, and this is going to sound hilarious to a lot of people that don't know a ton about ultras, but you basically eat all the things you wouldn't think you should eat. So candy is a big one. A lot of dudes are like heavy on like Nerds gummy clusters. A lot of dudes are heavy on like gummy bears, sour gummy worms. For me, it was Eggo waffles, the frozen Eggo waffles. Just like grab a bunch of them, eat them. It's a quick, simple carb. And then Rice Krispie treats. So I probably ate like 2 boxes of Rice Krispie treats getting through that. And if you think about what's in a Rice Krispie treat, it's just sugar and rice. So it's super simple, easy to eat at any moment. And then I went through a couple different types of carb drinks. One of the things you got to watch out for is flavor fatigue. So if you're like, oh, I love, cherry flavor carb drink. Well, after about 50 miles, you're not going to really want to drink much more cherry carb drink. You're going to want to mix it up. So having multiple flavors of things was easy for me. A lot of like beef jerky. I'm, huge on protein. I think you need it, especially that deep in the race. Also, one of the things I did throughout the race was take creatine supplements. I don't know if that's the norm, but for me, it helped me with like my cognitive ability, that deep into the race. And I was drinking so much water, it put water back into my muscles, which helped with like my overall soreness. So I was taking creatine, I was taking protein as much as I could stomach, which ended up being only about 75 miles. So I have a ton of leftover food, but I did what I could while in the time that I could, and I knew that it wasn't going to last. I knew there was going to be a moment where I was like, I cannot eat anymore. And then the aid stations are usually stacked with different things, so we did a lot of instant mashed potatoes, which is a good carb, ramen noodles. I ate a couple of like the camping MREs. So like fettuccine Alfredo MR was a good one, like super deep in the race. It was like warm, hot food is nice to have. You basically don't really taste much that deep in the race. You're just really after like, please, for love of God, I hope I eat this and it brings me back to life. So you're eating to basically just put life back into your body.
Dude, super interesting that you did the last 15 miles on water alone. I just imagine with the heat, it would be really easy to go hyponatremic. And when I do anything really long distance, granted, I'm not doing anything that long, I use shot blocks chews,
Hmm.
the double sodium Cliff shot blocks chews, and that's something I can keep down. But without being able to keep it down, I've been on some, like, long treks with a ruck where I had, like, 5 or 6 miles to go and I couldn't keep salts down, and that screwed me up. And I
Yeah.
hadn't gone 80, 90 miles yet. So, when you're 15 miles on just water at the tail end of a 100-mile race, how in the Jesus did you do that, dude? That's awesome. Like, you couldn't keep anything down. Were you vomiting as well?
Yeah, I vomited a ton towards the end, and there's a great shot of me puking that I'm sure they'll throw up, and so everybody can get an idea of what that looked like. Maybe not, but yeah, it was when it got to that point. I was so delirious. It kind of just came to how bad I wanted it, and once I was that close to where I could kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, there was nothing that was going to keep me away from crossing that finish line, unless aside from a catastrophic injury. And once I hit 50 miles, I knew that I was going to finish. It was just going to be a matter of how long it was going to take me. I was so out of it, and I only had one goal in mind. I mean, I know that you know what that's like to be so exhausted. You can only keep one thing on your mind at a time. It's like I'm getting to the next aid station, I'm getting to the next check mark, but my main goal is to finish this motherfucker. We're gonna push. We're gonna push until we get there. And so, was it the smartest idea? Probably not. In all reality, if anybody would have really seen me in those last miles, they probably would have been like, you might want to consider like bowing out of this thing, but there was no way that was going to happen. It was everything in my body was just like, go, go, go. And so just keeping one foot in front of the other, I knew that every step I took was closer to that finish line. There was nothing that was going to keep me away from it.
Dude, it's a testament to willpower over physiology, which is a fucking thing, man. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've touched it a little myself, where I was able to do something that my body certainly didn't have the capacity for. That's kick ass. It's awesome. And for like anybody listening that's considering doing one of these epic races, just know going into it, and everyone says this super cliche shit, man. They're like, yeah, man, you're going to really find out about yourself. And like, yeah, but you're going to go so deep into yourself, man, you're going to get lost. And if you have the training under your belt like you did and the dedication under your belt, when all of the other functionality in your brain shut down and you were running autonomous, all your systems knew were that we got to finish, and that's speaks volumes for who you are as a dude, man. That's kick ass. And
Yeah,
I
man.
I also want to point out, you got a family, dude. It's not like you're a single dude and you can just go and run 20 miles every morning. Like, you got to juggle life, a career, work. Because I know you also have a day job, man. You run a day job, you run a side hustle, and you're doing this kind of training. Tell me how you're juggling all that stuff.
Man, I don't sleep much. I hate not being busy. You can probably empathize with that a little bit. Like sitting around doing nothing, watching TV all day is not really my jam. So I'm constantly looking for something to do to keep me busy. And so that means that I have to be flexible with my schedule, right? Some days I'm busy with work. There's no way I can pull away. That means that the run happens at 11 o'clock at night. Like things are going to get done no matter what. It's just a matter of finding the time. One of the excuses I hate the most when I hear from people about fitness is like, oh, I don't have time. Nobody has time. Everybody's busy. You just make it happen, right? Like I will get up at 3 a.m. if I have to and go run. I will stay up until midnight and go for a run if I have to. You just find a way to make it work. I would say that the most important thing to me in my schedule is for sure being a dad. So spending a few hours with my daughter every day was took precedence over it all. Beyond that, it was work, being a husband also ahead of that. So being a family man, finding time to do well at work and then also train for these and also run SigDebt, which takes up it's people don't realize how much time, an Instagram page can actually take. All those things take some sort of priority in your life, but you find a way to make it work. You find a way to get shit done. It's just a matter of being flexible with your schedule and doing things at ungodly hours, putting the work in whenever everybody else is sleeping. That's really the secret. There is no there is no secret sauce to any of it. It's just how much are you willing to put into it.
I like to tell people, man, I'm a mediocre SOB, but I'm very, very consistent. And consistency is my only superpower against mediocrity. And, I don't miss days. I don't do it because it's a slippery slope and I'm getting old and I do not want to end up an old, decrepit has been. So I get out there at 11 or 3 a.m. or whenever it may be. But that level of dedication, man, it takes so much wasta to get out of bed and like will your way through something that you know is it's gonna suck. It's gonna be rough,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's gonna benefit mind, body, and soul. Can you talk about sig debt a little bit? How'd you what is sig debt? How'd you fall into that? Why'd you create it, and where is it at now? How can folks support it?
Yeah. So SigDebt was just kind of a dumb project that I thought would be interesting for me. SigDebt's an Instagram page I created back in October of last year. It was really just a place to park some cool pictures I had from deployments and training from my time in the military, and it just kind of started to grow. Found a really cool community of dudes. A lot of Australian dudes actually hit me up, and they were really the first like big followers of SigDet. I went from maybe 100 followers to 5,000 followers, and now we're over 11,000 followers on SigDet. I finally, created some merch through this company called American Trigger Pullers. Yeah, there we go. So we have merch out now. People have been very supportive of that. Yeah, honestly, one of my big inspirations and one of the things that kind of got me kind of off my ass with that, and then kind of which kind of bled into like my fitness life was Forward Observations Group. A lot of people think I'm associated with them. I'm really just a big fan. I've talked to Derek from Fog a couple of times just through DMs, but I thought that was so badass. That page was so fucking cool that I wanted to do something like that kind of for my own and see what I could make of it. So I ended up making my own and kind of developing it through time, and been fortunate enough that it's kind of taken off. But, you know, I've never thought it to be like a job or be anything that's like hard to do. So sometimes I go a while without posting on it, and I used to post every day. Now it's a little bit more closer to like once a week or every other week, but I still try to keep the content at a very high level and keep it cool, so to speak, right? Like I'm not a very cool dude, but people like respond to some of the cool things that I think are cool. But yeah, man, and SIGDET, for those of the people that don't know, signal detachment is when you're in a special operations or a special forces unit. Signal detachment is where all the commo dudes sit, right? It's there's a SIGDET, and so I worked in the SIGDET at 7th Group for my entire career, in GSB and 2nd Battalion and 7th Group. So that's kind of where I got the name. Was like, hey, this can be a cool spot for a lot of commo dudes to kind of come together. It's kind of interesting. There's not a lot of space on the internet for dudes that are like the support dudes for soft units, right? We're kind of like our own kind of outside group. We don't really fit in with the big army dudes, and we're not Green Berets, so we don't, pretend to be by having, our own or being, pretending to be part of the units through that way. But we are support dudes for special operations units. We're kind of our own thing. And so I thought it would be a cool space for dudes that were soft support to kind of get together and kind of, feel like, okay, this dude kind of gets, where we're coming from. We're kind of like the redhead stepchild of the soft community, right? Which I like it that way. I think there are a lot of cool dudes that are soft support dudes. Some of my very best friends are all soft dudes, soft support dudes, and 18 Echoes. Love those dudes, but there's a lot of them I think that would agree that you need a good 25 series behind you to kind of help pave the way. So I like that I was able to do that in my previous life and support those 18 Echoes.
Yeah, especially now. A new Green Beret gets to a team and he's like, "We can do everything on the team. We're an ODA. We're the best of the best." Blah 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 blah. I can't wait to get a 25 series on my team because I'm like, "Oh, dude, listen, can't get this to work. I have trouble with this," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I do this all the time." Because as a Green Beret, man, you got to worry about so much other crapola that your specialty is really a secondary task. And so bringing somebody who specializes in that field is vital. That's one thing I tell people about group support is like we're a multi-tool. And that's super cool, man. And then like if you have a screw in a 4x4 and you gotta get the screw all the way in, like, yeah, I got a Phillips head. I can fucking manage. Or I can go and get the dude that has the drill with the appropriate drill bit to drive that thing home the right way. And that's how I tell people group support is because it's like, hey, that's cool. I can do it. I can do it, but it's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be timely. And that's gonna suck a whole bunch of time out of my mission that really could be dedicated to doing other things. And so kudos to you guys. And thank you for taking care of us because I am not good with radios.
Dude, absolutely. Like the the thing that I loved about being in group was that one, I got to be around Green Berets, which to me, still to this day, you guys are like superheroes. And I have tremendous amount of respect for anybody that goes to that pipeline, comes out with the Green Beret. I think that is above and beyond. Like, you guys are amazing. So to be able to operate in that capacity and support dudes I was fortunate enough to be able to deploy to Afghanistan in 2016 and do the job downrange. My experience was not as insane as a lot of other people's downrange, but I did get to do a lot of really cool things with group that I would not have been able to do if I was in like the 82nd or something, right? So getting exposure to those things and getting to do those things was amazing for me as a young private, especially at the time. It was like this is the coolest shit ever. And then, supporting the absolute tip of the spear, dudes was amazing. Wouldn't change that, trade that time for anything. And then, the best dudes, I think, within a soft community are the dudes that are willing to learn, not just the soft dudes willing to learn from the support guys, but the support guys willing to learn from the soft dudes, using this buzzword, but like knowledge transfer both ways. If I can go and learn how to shoot, move, and communicate better from a Green Beret, to me, that is absolutely the pinnacle of training. You're not going to get it anywhere else that's going to be better. And so, as a support guy, being on top of your shit, knowing exactly what you're talking about, and teaching the dudes who want to be taught to the absolute best of your ability, and being an expert in the things that they ask you to be an expert in, that's how you kind of say thank you, right? Being an expert in your job and helping them out as much as you possibly can. So I got a lot out of it, and I hope that I was able to support the dudes and give them everything they needed from me in my time there.
Dude, well said, because I'm chief now, and I've seen things from a higher view, like wave tops, or really like a sky level view looking down. And anytime we get a support guy that shows up and anytime you can tell he's trying to look the part as a Green Beret, or trying to look like he has like a disheveled uniform, or he's not shaven, or anything like that, it automatically puts off a bad vibe, because it's like, this dude's not a master of his craft. He's trying to be us. Like, we don't need another one of us. We got 12 of us. We need you. We need you and the skill set you bring to the table. And I've been proven wrong a couple times with some disheveled uniforms and lack of facial hair being within regs. Who am I to talk? However, when I see a support guy and he shows up and he's clean shaven, he's in a good uniform, and he's there like to be a sponge to learn, and he shows some humility, I want to give that guy the world. And then when he's good at his job, I'm like, homie, you are on the team. You are one of us. We'll tell you everything you need to know, because you know whatever it is, radios or signals intelligence, or one of the many things that we just don't have time to dedicate to mastering. So, dude, kudos, because what you just said, like, spoke volumes to my career thus far. And when I was a young guy, I didn't really recognize that stuff. As an old salty dude on the team now, I see those guys come in, and I can tell relatively fast if he's going to be a good fit. I wish we had worked together at seventh group for two reasons. Florida's badass, and then we would have been fast friends.
Hell yeah, man.
All right. I want to close out, but I want to give you an opportunity. Do you have anybody else you want to shout out to? Anything like parting hits?
I get a lot of questions about dudes that want to get started in ultras. And so I'll touch on that really quickly. If an ultra is something you want to do, and it's kind of calling to you, right, to go out there and complete a 50K, a 100K, 100 milers, those big monster races, my biggest piece of advice is train, 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 train. Find a coach, find somebody that you trust, go out there and put in the work. But the thing I like about ultras in general is that you can't fake it, right? You cannot fake your way through a 100-mile race. If you show up unprepared, it will literally eat you alive. And so what I tell dudes when they ask me, like, hey, man, I want to run a 100-miler, we'll start out with a 30K, do a 50K, build your way up, find a coach, put the work in, and you'll get there. I think a lot of dudes, when they get into running in general, the thing that they do that works against them is they start to compare themselves to others immediately. They'll see somebody that's running like, oh, this dude ran like 730 miles for like 15 miles or whatever, and they get frustrated, they get discouraged. Everybody starts somewhere. Just get out there and put the work in. Focus on consistently, like you said. Consistency is absolutely the way. You will be slower in the beginning than you will 6 months in. That's okay. Just start. Just go. And don't wait for the perfect time. Just start running. If you're unsure about it, go out and run 3 miles. See how you feel. The next day, go out and run 5 miles and build upon that. So it's I get hit up by a lot of dudes that want to do this. I would just say start and stay consistent and have a clear goal.
Dude, I don't know that I want to run 100 miles, but after talking to you about it,
Oh,
I
we're gonna
might.
run 100 miles. Don't worry about it.
I'll tell you what, you give me some Sigdet swag and I might make it work, man.
I got
Uh
you.
yeah, we'll go on the spirit realm together. Okay, so Mike, everybody, please look up his company Sigdet on Instagram. It's one of my favorites. Every time he posts something, I'm like relatable, and the swag is money. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to buying my hat when they come out. When that drop happens.
I got you.
And dude, I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to talking offline and figuring out this potential 100 miles. I don't know. I might need a couple years train up. We'll see. We'll see, brother.
It'll happen quicker than you think, man. You got that dog in you. You'll be good.
All right. Yeah. Demons. Lots of demons.
Demons.
All right. We'll sign off. Thank you, homie. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Christian.